Hey yo, what's good? It's your boy Ken back at it again. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Bars. Um, I'm back doing another video here. Wanted to give an update on my thoughts of this Royal Rumble this past Sunday and AEW last night. Wow. It's WrestleMania season, so WWE should be getting in their creative juices. Um, Hopefully. And AEW looks like they're forming a partnership to some degree with New Japan. So first, I'll start off with Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble was this past Sunday. It was a decent pay per view. Someone had reminded me that was like, this is the first Royal Rumble, um, in an empty arena since the pandemic. And I had to think back. I was like, wait, really, is it? Because the first pay per view that WWE did that I thought of since the pandemic had started, and I could be wrong, was WrestleMania, um, or maybe one of the other pay per views that happened before WrestleMania. They did in the empty arena, but the WrestleMania one was for make like sticks out to me the most, in terms of like when that started for WWE doing the empty arena matches or shows. Um, but yeah, I had to think back. I was like, oh shit! I was like, you're right, because 2020 Royal Rumble, Drew McIntyre won, and it was in front of a live audience, before everything happened and kind of being shut down a month later. So yeah, definitely, you could feel the void or the vagueness of not having an audience there at the Royal Rumble, live in attendance, which you could argue kind of hurt it or whatever. But all in all, I thought it was a decent pay per view. They kind of got me a little bit on the Goldberg Drew McIntyre match. I thought Goldberg was definitely going to win the WWE Championship. Um, but it was quick. What exactly it needed to be. Goldberg didn't embarrass himself, and it was fine. Whatever. Um, the Drew McIntyre Roman Reigns match, I personally enjoyed. I thought it was a good match. Roman not I'd say Roman and Drew McIntyre. Roman and Kevin Owens. Roman and Kevin Owens have good chemistry. The only thing that fell flat was the ending for that match, because Roman was handcuffed to the light fixture, or stage prop or whatever, and which I thought was a genius spot, but it took him a long time to get off, or become unglued or unhinged from the light fixture as the second referee that came, he literally stopped counting. He was like, one, two, because it was a last man standing match. And he counts. He's like, one, two, three, four, five. And he just throws his hands up and just randomly stops. I'm like, man, that does not look good. So the ending for that match felt really flat, but I liked all the backstage like spots and brawls that Roman and Kevin Owens were doing. Kind of reminded me of the I Quit match between The Rock and Mankind had in the empty arena, years ago. Was it St. Valentine's Massacre? I think it was. But that's that reminded me of. So I thought that was pretty cool. Bianca Belair being the women's Royal Rumble winner this year, I thought that was great. Um, Definitely, she's a star in the making. Hopefully, they will have her go up against Sasha Banks, because I don't see her going up against Asuka. Um, on paper, I just don't think it's a good matchup. But yeah, happy for her. Then we get on to the men's Royal Rumble itself. The men's Royal Rumble was all right. I think it was nice seeing Christian back. That was definitely a surprise. I was surprised of the night. It was nice to see Carlito, and apparently Carlito right now is on a 3 week trial, is what I read, and being both a talent slash producer, because they were impressed with his work in the Rumble match. So it'd be cool to see Carlito back to some capacity. Um, and then we get down to like maybe the final four or five uh, men in the Rumble, and lo and behold, I mean, 1 year ago he came back. after a 9-year hiatus, which was the biggest, besides Drew winning the Rumble last year for me, which was the biggest highlight of the Royal Rumble last year, comes back and wins the Royal Rumble a second time. Edge is the 2021 Royal Rumble winner. I was like, okay. I had no complaints. For majority, there's not too many people that complained about this. However, there is a small pocket of minority of people who are kind of like, well, this is WWE going right back to the well again, and going back to veterans. How come they get someone new? And this is where I kind of have to break it down. I love Edge, or I'm not the biggest Edge fan in the world, but I do like Edge, and I do see his value. Edge is great. Edge is a great talent. I have no problem with him winning the Royal Rumble. But when I kind of let it simmer down, I kind of thought about watched Raw past Monday night, which I thought was probably one of the best Raws we've had. Jesus, probably since even though this is 2021, post Rumble Raw was the best Raw we've had all year of 2020, in terms of Raw, in my opinion. But anyways, just kind of letting them simmer down a little bit, and kind of dissecting things and looking at it from a different perspective. It's WrestleMania season. WWE are going to want the big stars, the big names to be at WrestleMania. So it does make sense for Edge to win the Royal Rumble. But I go back and look at that Rumble match, and I look at the last, final 5, final 6 people. And even looking at the Rumble match itself, in its entirety, when it first started, down to it gets the last 5 or last 6, you kind of look and say to yourself, who really can win the Royal Rumble? It was kind of a lack of star power in that Rumble match. I mean, really, it's kind of who do you have win the 2021 Royal Rumble? There was literally nobody. When you get down to the final 5, it was Edge, Braun Strowman, Seth Rollins. I might be forgetting someone else, and I know Randy Orton came in towards the tail end because he hurt his knee and completely skipped the majority of the Rumble. But at that point, it was just kind of who else is gonna win this Rumble? Rollins won it 2 years ago, so he's not gonna go for it. Braun Strowman, they already even though he wasn't planned to, they had to make do with what they had. He was in a main event spot at WrestleMania last year by beating Goldberg for the Universal title. So they're not going to have him win the Rumble just to put him back in in a main event high profile spot again at WrestleMania. So then at that point it was just kind of well, fuck, it's Edge. I think it is kind of a problem with WWE that they really don't. They have a hard time of making new stars. They really struggle with that. Like I said, Edge's not a bad choice. I have no problems with it. I think anybody, and I even said it last year when Edge came back, and it was reported he signed a 3-year, multi-year deal, multi-million-dollar deal in WWE for 3 years. And I even said last year, ain't no way in hell is Edge signed on, even though it's a limited date schedule. You could say it's a Brock Lesnar schedule. And even though for a light, part-time Legends contract deal, whatever Edge has for 3 years, you're not going to tell me he's not going to win the world title at least once, if not maybe twice, during those 3 years. It's just that it ain't going to happen. So expect it to happen. So Edge being world champion again is nowhere out of the realm of possibilities again since he's come back. But I really don't know. And you kind of go back and it's well, they haven't really built anyone up over the last year to really, you could say that could be a strong contender. With Drew McIntyre, I could say McIntyre was a strong contender to win the Rumble last year, and they made him look strong and he looked great. Can't say the same for anybody, in 2020 coming into this year's Rumble that looked like a surefire winner. But either way, like I said, Edge won the Rumble. I thought it's fine. He is the ultimate opportunist, so it's going to be interesting to see him, how he was on Raw and NXT last night. I thought that was kind of cool to see him on NXT and kind of teasing he might choose the winner for the NXT. He might battle for the NXT belt because that's the belt he's never won before. I thought that was an awesome segment. And to see what he does maybe even on SmackDown, see Edge, the ultimate opportunist, just kind of like pick his spot and play it out a little bit. I think that'll be cool. Even though I think everyone's hoping it's Edge versus Roman Reigns because I think that's the better matchup for WrestleMania. But yeah, all in all, I have no problem with Edge winning the Rumble. I would have thought for sure it was going to be Daniel Bryan because I think Daniel Bryan would have made sense. But it is what it is. Yeah. That's all I have to say about that. Moving forward to not NXT, AEW Dynamite. AEW Dynamite had one of their Dynamite specials, spring break beach break or something like that. Episode last night. Excellent episode of Dynamite. It was really good. I enjoyed it. The main event was Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers versus Pac, Ray, and Jon Moxley. Solid 6-man tag match. Like, these guys were like all over the place, flying all over the place. It was really, really good match. I loved it. Towards the end, the Good Brothers won along with Kenny Omega. And they just start beating up, the baby faces. Then some random dude comes in this ring and starts wailing on Jon Moxley. Takes off the mask, and it's fucking Kenta. Kenta. Also known as not Kota Ibushi, but Kenta. God, I'm forgetting Kenta's, because he went by Kenta under WWE. Just give me a second here. Kota Ibushi is the new IWGP heavyweight champion. Give me 1 second here. Was it Kenta? Yeah, Kenta. I forgot what his Hideo Itami. I think that was his NXT name. Okay, so I was right the first time. Kenta returns. I'm sorry about that. Kenta returns, gives a GTS to Jon Moxley, and just shocked the wrestling fans. And they announced, they showed it on their YouTube page. Kenny Omega, and they announced for next week, Kenny Omega will team up with Kenta and will face, those guys will go off against Jon Moxley and the Murder Hawk, Lance Archer. God, my mind is going blank right now. Lance Archer. So big main event set for next week on Impact, Dynamite. But what it shows here is that AEW, to some degree, has now a working relations with New Japan. Something that wrestling fans have been wanting for ever since AEW's inception. Ever since AEW said, like, hey, we want to work with other wrestling companies. New Japan was like top billing, but a lot of people said, it wasn't going to happen because the then president of New Japan, who's no longer the president anymore, was said to be a barrier as to why there wouldn't be a working relations between New Japan and AEW, because it felt like the Young Bucks screwed New Japan over, and then it felt like Omega screwed New Japan over, especially when they were under the impression that Omega would resign with them. When he didn't, he ended up just going to AEW. He didn't tell them that he wasn't going to resign. They found out through a newspaper article in Japan from an interview that he had done. So there was a bit of, bitter wounds between New Japan and the Elite guys when they left to start up AEW. So now that the former president is no longer in power of New Japan and he's now left, it's now being believed that the door, because of that, the door is now open, or has been open, as you saw Kenta last night on Dynamite. Um, I think this is great. Now we don't know how far the partnership is going to last. I don't know if it will last as long as however long this partnership with Impact Wrestling is going on. But I'm telling you, I'm here to enjoy the ride because I love New Japan Pro Wrestling. To me, New Japan Pro Wrestling is still the best wrestling company in the world right now to me. Um, but this is just overall just fucking awesome as a wrestling fan to see AEW partner up with Impact and now partnering up with New Japan, which you could say for all intents and purposes, AEW is kind of, maybe not trying to be, but you could say that AEW is kind of like an Americanized version of New Japan, or they try to take some influence from New Japan. So it'll definitely be dope to see that happen. Now, obviously, Kenta is here because John Moxley had showed up and had regained his IWGP United States title. So, and Moxley is also wrestling in Japan too. So obviously, their little beef and their little feud is going to carry over here in the AEW, which I think is smart because I think Moxley kind of needs something to do because can't really see him chasing for the heavyweight title right now. So they gotta have to figure something out for Moxley. So Moxley can be busy with Kenta and doing his thing in Japan, while they find some new directions and some new contenders lined up for Omega. Um, However, I will say though that seeing Kenta on Dynamite and him wrestling already within like 1 week, they didn't even milk it. You know, they didn't even milk it a few weeks. They were just like, we're gonna give you Kenta next week on Dynamite, and he's teaming up with Kenny Omega. Um, Seeing, and it kind of goes back to, fast forwarding back to seeing Omega and the Good Brothers when Omega wrestled on Impact's pay per view last month, and they were all wearing the Bullet Club shirts, and they were saying "Too Sweet." Everyone was wondering, like, wait a minute, why is Omega and the Good Brothers rocking the Bullet Club gear? Because Bullet Club is an intellectual property owned by New Japan, so they're like, we're all wondering, like, how is something's not right here. Something's kind of fishy. They're not doing this just to be doing this. And now we know why. Fast forward, a couple weeks later, and now we know why. So I think this is awesome. I think this is great. I'm definitely looking forward to see what they do with this. Hopefully, we'll get to see guys like Kota Ibushi, the new IWGP heavyweight / Intercontinental Champion over in AEW. Maybe we'll see Ishii. I'd love to see Ishii over in AEW, do something there. A little bit of talent exchange, I think, would be really, really awesome for AEW and just for the wrestling community as a whole. So yeah, you guys let me know what you think about Royal Rumble. Edge won the Rumble match. Who do you think he's going to choose to face at WrestleMania for which brand, which title? What do you guys think of Kenta being shown up on Dynamite, and this now seeming like being the first, hopefully, of many steps to an AEW New Japan partnership? And then you just have the one or two. Where does this leave not AEW, Ring of Honor? Because Ring of Honor has been in bed with New Japan for so many years. I mean, like, I wouldn't even say a decade, but almost close to almost a decade, it feels like. But Ring of Honor has been with New Japan for so long. So, I mean, I don't know. And I'll do a video on Ring of Honor shortly after, because I think they're doing a couple things that's a lot of people are overlooking. But I don't know. It'd definitely be interesting to see. But yeah, like I said, you guys let me know what you think in the box below. Do yourself a favor, hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. Peace.